perspective on who's coming to preach to you today. We welcome all of our locations. And I want to thank all of you for the privilege of being your pastor. And just let me read you something. It's kind of lengthy. But here's what I wrote. When God begins to give you a vision, he often makes it plain through a person he puts in your life. This person becomes a sort of window through which you see some of your own potential. Through their example, encouragement, wisdom, and even weaknesses, you get a glimpse of what God can do through you. In 2004, when I got serious about starting a church, I had plenty of vague ideas and crazy dreams of what I hoped to build. What I didn't have was a clue about what that looked like in real life or how to make it happen. Thankfully, God gave me a window named Perry Noble. This wasn't a little window. In fact, this window was 6 feet, 6 inches tall. And this was no boring window. Like all human windows, it was broken in a few places. But like the song says, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. I experienced an almost blinding vision that I'll never forget the first time I sat down to have lunch with Perry Noble. Of course, he took me out to eat, and he grabbed the check before I could, even though I was a no-name church planter who should have had to pay to even get a meeting with him. And he was the founding pastor of what was growing to quickly become the largest church in his state and one of the largest in the nation. Of course, there were biscuits involved and some kind of dessert. Actually, I remember him ordering 2 desserts for himself. When the server asked whether he wanted the one with chocolate or bananas, he boldly said, both. Touch somebody, say both. I would learn over the next 12 years, and I'm still learning, that that's the way Perry did and does everything, with boldness. It's a special Southern brand of boldness. The kind of boldness that would dare to dream up and labor to raise up a church that would touch the world from Anderson, South Carolina. Freaking South Carolina. I know that placement of freaking was forced, but you can't pay homage to Perry Noble without slipping in a Christian cuss word. Every time someone would tell Perry the church was done growing or had maxed out its capacity, Perry would boldly stand on the stage and prosecute that kind of weak faith and limited thinking with the evidences of God's faithfulness and the promises of his word. And I watched as his boldness enabled his church to break barrier after barrier. Through Perry, I saw a kind of boldness that was also willing to break religious barriers, even if it meant inciting a few critics, so that other normal, broken people could catch a glimpse of the light of Christ. It was a kind of boldness that occasionally took it too far and was usually quick to admit when it did. But it was a boldness that would rather overreach and apologize than sit back, do nothing, and waste away. Perry modeled a culturally relevant biblical boldness in the pulpit that gave me permission to preach with my own kind of passion. When I watched him challenge his church over and over again to give, serve, stretch, step out, and bring people to Christ by any means necessary, I figured, well, maybe I can challenge my church to try to change the world too. I mean, if they can do it from Anderson, South Carolina, surely we can do it from the Queen City. I think, though, the most important windows God gave me through Perry weren't through his Sunday morning sermons, though, or even the opportunities he gave me to stand on his platform as God was giving me my own. They were the Sunday afternoon phone calls, which happened every single week in our church's formative years. These conversations would not have been appropriate to release on a leadership podcast. These were the times we dropped our guard and celebrated wins or nursed wounds, whatever the situation required. For the times when a phone call wasn't enough, we went to our break glass in case of emergency backup plan. Drop everything and meet me at Fats in Gaffney this Wednesday afternoon. These were the lunches where Perry gave me the greatest gift a pastor can be given, a safe place to be real. And sometimes he even let me pick up the check. Today, my brother, who was instrumental in showing me how to dream big, be bold, and keep it real, is in the house to share God's word with us on the 11th year anniversary of Elevation Church. And P, for over a decade, you've been a window for me. Now it's our turn to be a window for you. As you look out over these people who are standing to their feet at all of our locations, now over 25,000 strong in attendance, meeting in over 14 locations and making a difference that touches the world. I want you to know none of this would have happened without you. Elevation Church, I present to you my friend and window, Perry Noble.
Thank you. You may be seated, all of our locations. Wow. You know, Pastor Stephen gives me way too much credit for what's going on here at Elevation, because it was easy to believe in him from day one. And when he came and had lunch with me, and I've never told him this, but after the lunch that day, I went and wrote down notes that he had taught me, and he hadn't even planted his church yet. And through the years, I've learned from him, watching him. And let me tell you something about your pastor before I get started. You've got two types of friends in life. You've got friends that have your back and friends that will walk by your side. And friends that have your back will turn their back on you when times get tough. But friends that walk by your side will walk through hell with you on Sunday. And Stephen and Holly Furtick have been friends that have stood by my side through the most difficult season I've ever lived through. And I will never, ever, ever, ever forget that. And I don't have your back, because I'm walking by your side, no matter what.